And now for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And that's right, business professionals. I'm Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 407, our wonderful yearly year-end predictions episode. That's right, for Friday, December 22nd, 2023. And with me, as always, is my pal, my colleague, and, well, I think a guy who had a better 2023 than the most of us, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
I think we both had solid 23s.
No.
What was your
No.
Did you what was your
Personally,
biggest learning? I'm going to throw this out of left
Okay.
field. What was your biggest learning this year?
What's
What's the thing that really impacted you, that made you think differently, maybe change your mind about something? Maybe the effectiveness of a Barbie movie, or Barbenheimer, if you will.
The influence of a Barbenheimer movie on my pipeline. How about that? In fact, the influence of just about everything on my pipeline.
We've talked about this, but what was really interesting in 23 was the number of our consultant friends that had a rougher year because so much of that marketing consulting stuff seemed to be put on hold.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it was, as I've been saying, anybody in the business of change this year was sitting on the sideline like Rudy, waiting to get his name called to get in the game. And just never.
Come on, coach, let him in. Come on, coach.
Yeah.
I love the end of that movie. It's
I know.
So good. And then he sacks the guy at the end of the game. It's so
and they're
perfect.
chanting his name. Yeah.
It's so good. It's funny. I know this is our predictions episode, and it's been quickly becoming my least favorite episode.
Oh,
because
really?
I'm always wrong.
Well,
I feel like no, and I'm going to say it again. I feel really good about these predictions.
Yeah.
But I already know that they're probably going to be wrong.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple this year that if I am wrong, it's going to make for a really bad end of next year. So,
and I haven't looked. I looked at yours a while ago because we were going to do this predictions episode sooner, and we just ended up.
That's right.
Putting it off because we did the predictions review episode, which we'll put in the show notes, which is a fantastic episode of you and I talking about how wrong we are about so many things in marketing.
I think if I remember correctly, we both sort of got a B, like a B minus. I think
a B minus. We had a couple A pluses in there that were like gimmies, but I still, Apple still hasn't purchased Disney.
No, that's true.
Which is always it's always one that I put in the lineup, but I didn't this year because I don't want to be wrong anymore. It'll happen sometime in the future, but just not next year.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen, right? That's the one prediction that we can make every single year that you say it's going to happen. I'm saying
I cannot wait. I cannot wait because I'm gonna fly you to Cleveland and I'm going to watch you eat crow when that happens.
Yes. Well, we have a steak dinner bet on it. So,
but the problem is we've never set the date.
No, you've never set the date. That's let's be really clear here. You've never set the date. So
for a strategic reason, there's a
strategic
reason why I've not set a date. And anyways, but so we I don't know, we should probably get right into it.
Well, let's jump into it because thank goodness. Very special episode of Blossom for you here this week, and that is our predictions episode. And so the way it'll work, as it does every year, is that we'll switch off, try and get to about 5 predictions each, depending on where we fall time wise in our discussion about each of the predictions and all those kinds of things. So, ladies first, would you like to go first?
Yes, I absolutely. Thank you for the honor. I was hoping you were going to give me the opportunity. I have 5. Whether or not you allow me to share all 5 of my predictions, I have 5. predictions. And the first one is the one that I shared on the Content Marketing Institute blog.
Oh boy.
And again, we've talked about this before on the show that I was the only one of the 67 or so predictions that mentioned the P word, which was print.
Yes.
And I'm very proud of that fact. Everybody was all AI, social media. I mean, come on. I'm making it real. I'm bringing out the print, and here's what I'm going to say. And I'm not going to read my CMI predictions post. I'm basically just saying print's going to have a good year. My specific prediction, which you asked for, we want to be as specific as possible with these things, so we could be really, really wrong,
right,
in the future. Is I'm saying at least 3 major brands that you and I know will launch new shiny print publications. And when I say that, they're going to be recurring publications. I would say at least quarterly. And they will be set out through the post office. And I think that is going to happen in the year 2024. The quarterly custom magazine is going to be out in force. And my rationale for this, and then now you can pick it apart, is it is more difficult than we've ever thought could be possible to build an audience online outside of your viral hits and whatnot. And we have this print channel and this postal service that is, at least, I don't know what it does in California, but in Cleveland, Ohio, they deliver 6 times a week. And the quality of the publications through the print, basically spam, direct mail, casino literature, whatever you seem to be getting these days, it's not very valuable. I think there's a huge opportunity in print because it's 100% deliverability. And you can send specifically, I like the loyalty method. I like sending it out to current customers. I don't know what these 3 major brands will do. If they'll say, hey, we want to take a position around a certain topic, or whether or not we want to focus on a loyalty driven activity. I'm going to leave that up in the air, but I think that's going to happen in 2024. What say you, Mr. Rose?
I 100% agree with you.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and here's why. It'll lead. We'll get to my first one here in just a moment, which is directly intricately linked to what you just said. But I think from a marketing perspective, I've been calling 2024 the year of brand. And we actually talked about it a little bit on the last episode, I think, where I talked about the fact that with the trend of AI, with the trends of social media, which of course we'll talk about as well, with the trend of everything that's going on from automation, technology, privacy, data, all those things, in many ways, the short term, I think this is a short term, so call it 2024, if you will, trend will be that the storyteller, the source of information, will become even more important than perhaps even the story itself. In other words, who brings you the news, who brings you feature articles, who brings you thought leadership, who brings you insight, who brings you entertainment. That brand level experience is going to become really important. And so I see companies really leaning into that. And print is, of course, as you have predicted for many years, and I think that's a pretty safe prediction, by the way, the glossy, sort of things, because we even saw that this year start to happen. But
yeah, I mean, we know that Amazon and Walmart have both doubled down with their catalogs.
Yeah,
but I haven't quite seen the push. We've seen CDW continue on with their wonderful loyalty-driven magazines in the ed tech and government tech markets. But I'd like to see some new and I really think that the problem is that I think a lot of chief marketing officers forget that they can actually market through print.
Yeah, well,
when all this competition is around, there's so much competition online. It's almost like I don't know how it is in lovely Hollywood, where you are around, where you drive in the wonderful traffic there. But in Cleveland, we've seen a resurgence of billboards over the past couple of years.
Interesting.
And it's interesting, especially on the legal side. It's like everybody's got this gotcha billboard that seems to be working. So, okay, great. You see this, now and again. So you got outdoor working really well. I'm like, I just can't believe that we've forgotten that wow, you can have uninterrupted lean back experience. I always say that the internet is built for lean forward, which means I have a question, I want an answer, I'm leaning
Sure.
forward, I want that
Yep.
information.
Yep.
What I love about print, it's a lean back experience. Is I don't necessarily know what the questions are, but I'm going to lean back and have this experience of, and maybe come up with some questions because of the content that's in front of me, and that's why I like that. So
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that, and I think, you know, the one of the interesting trends that we've seen, sort of very much under the radar, I would say, is the technology is now at a place with print that you don't have to have these huge runs to make it
that's right.
to make it cost effective, right? So we see, as a sales enablement, this is, you know, especially true in B2B, where we see glossy uh, thought leadership magazine or some sort of print piece, not necessarily a catalog, but a content marketing oriented piece, be used with exclusive distribution, where quite literally the salespeople are the distribution method,
That's
right? They're
right.
just handing this thing out to customers, or giving it away at their conference, or giving it away at their at other conferences where they're, you know, where they're paying for a booth or something like that. And it becomes much more of a conversation starter for sales, and you don't have to run 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 copies of it to make it cost effective. You can literally run a few hundred, and do it, and do print on demand now. And it's
Which
you know,
has been the variable printing of that has been happening for years. If you look at anything in distribution, where let's say you have a Lennox selling their air conditioning equipment, but they will then the local distributor gets the names and set directly to the homeowner in that location. Automotive has done that forever, right? I get a Mazda magazine, but the Mazda magazine is coming not from Mazda corporate, even though all the content is created corporately, it's coming from the local Mazda dealership. So that anyways. So there we go. But I do like the fact that you're right. It is much less expensive, but there's still a moat. It's like anybody can do a podcast. Anyone can put out a video. It's almost free to do that with millions of people. But if you want to do a little bit more, there is the expense of the post office, there's the expense of the design and the editorial and the printing. It's a little bit more that you have to give than just throwing it up online, and I think that moat presents an opportunity. So
yeah, it's the distribution, right? That's where you get creative, is in your distribution of how you get this thing into people's hands. Because once you do get into people's hands, it's good.
You're I've been taking too much with my wonderful first prediction. I want to hear yours, Mr. Robert Rose. What do you have, sir? I only had 3.5 cups of coffee today, so you're
working through it.
This is the best I got.
You're working through it. You're working through it. Okay, well, it's a related one. And as I said, I'm actually skipping down because this was actually my third prediction, but I'm going to make it now my first because it's so related in the topic, which is brands in 24 go all in on owned media, and especially video and especially events. And I'll tell you what I mean by that, which is related to that idea of the brand sort of going in on brand and the source. I think we see a few pointed trends that are all pointing in the same direction of owned media, which is the continued rise of influencer and subject matter expertise in terms of surfacing real humans, as terms of the insight and entertainment and thought leadership and education. But I also see the idea of publications, digital and print, and especially events, with events coming back in a big way, in a physical sense, but also not necessarily declining. In other words, the comeback of physical has not cannibalized the recent growth in digital. So now it seems to be a little bit of both. We can see, for example, we've seen our clients like Salesforce they're doubling down on events next year, right? So
you mean more than Dreamforce?
Dreamforce Connections, they're right now doing a world tour. So it's lots of smaller local events where they're doing like meetups and, and developers groups and marketing groups, and they're sort of building around these event-oriented strategies, both digital and physical events. But it's going really all in on owned media with that sort of underpinning of, as AI becomes a thing, and this will get later to my AI prediction, but the AI becomes a thing, advertising and optimizing paid media is going to get weird and messy, and looking at social media, and I'll get to that prediction later, is going to be weird and messy. And so owned media becomes a way to optimize the experience at all parts of the buyer's journey. So I just see it doubling down by smart companies and on owned media. And I know that's kind of broad, but basically I'll make it specific by saying I see a real doubling down on events and video in terms of an owned media strategy, and that taking over from sort of the sort of mid funnel lead generation stuff that we've seen so much of, which means a new rise in purpose marketing, a new rise in building, platforms, that we manage like products, and of course things like magazines and print magazines, et cetera.
Well, I of course agree with you on the event side. I think that especially from a customer driven event scenario, we as brands need reasons to get together with our customers
Right.
on an in-person
Exactly.
basis. We're desperate for that. And you know what? They are too. So make the excuse for them to say, let's get together, because they won't otherwise. That's
right.
not going to happen. It's so hard to get somebody on a phone these days, even on a Zoom call. Everybody's so busy. So make the gathering an educational networking gathering, make it fun. And you're going to see more of that. And that's why I asked about Dreamforce. So we know that Dreamforce is again going to be an amazing event for them in 24. You've got HubSpot with Inbound. You're going to continue to see these events happen. But I agree, you're seeing these smaller regional customer events. I know Fisher Investments as well on the financial side. Mm-hmm. They have road shows all year long. They'll bring a couple of experts from their organization, and they'll get through, and they'll have 50 or 75 people get together for a luncheon. And just that type of thing is going to be powerful as well. Right. So I like that you brought up the event side.
Yeah, taking it local, basically taking a local, sort of a local owned media strategy, right? So for a long time in advertising for national companies, the idea was, what is your national spend, right? What are you spending on sort of broadcast media or cable media or internet media on a national basis? And then we saw a trend of sort of local and hyper local, where you could buy local markets in TV. You can still do this, by the way, buy local markets in TV, buy local markets on the internet, buy local markets in even print kind of advertising. I think we're going to see a localization of owned media where brands are going to spend money on localizing their owned media experiences. And that comes in the form of mostly events.
Very nice. I like it.
Yeah.
You want to do one more prediction before we pay the bills? Should we do
that?
Yeah,
let's definitely do one more.
I will continue on. I'll just continue. You said I could go first, so I'm gonna go first the whole time. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's okay. Have another cup of coffee. Just enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Okay, here you go. Of course, I have to put a prediction on our favorite company that we probably talked about more than any other company.
Oh God,
23.
Yeah,
is our good friends at X.
Yes,
but with a twist. So here's my prediction. I want to get your take on it.
Yeah,
X will see a huge advertising turnaround in 2024.
Good. We disagree on. Oh, good. We disagree on this.
Yeah. So here you go. Yeah. I want to see you challenge this. Due to the fact that most everyone has left, but there is an opportunity to get more for your money because you just have less competition on that platform.
Oh, well, I don't disagree with that.
And but I think that you're going to see a lot of advertisers come back because of that. And it's going to be a story that's going to help kickstart, not back to where they were before, but you're going to see 24 that they will have increased advertising, X will, in 24 over 23. You will see a bump up, and you will see a lot of advertisers come back to that platform because there's an opportunity there.
This is the one you're going to regret next year. This is the one. This is the one you're gonna feel bad about.
Nope.
I mean, look, if you're the only one at a party, yes, there's more pizza for you. I mean, that's yeah, I get that. But that doesn't mean that the party's any better. Let's be clear. Yeah, I would say with your prediction, and again, I'll pull one of mine forward when we get to me, but that speaks to this a little more, But I just can't see it happening. I just can't see anybody wanting to expand their presence on X unless something like huge happens, like he sells off or he leaves or in some way has a complete transformation of the company. I just can't see any of that.
Well, people have short memories about things. And
but it's getting worse. Okay. It's not getting better. It's not like it's incrementally getting better.
I understand right now at the end of 23, that's what it is.
Yeah.
We're going in. These are 24 predictions, not the end of 23 predictions.
Understood.
Remember the conversation we had about purpose, and we talked about the fact that a lot of companies, they go all in on purpose when they're good financially. When you're doing well on revenues and profit, you see a lot of people double down on purpose. And when it's not going well, they're like, oh, I forget that whole plan. We've got to make our numbers.
Yes.
I think you're going to see some of that happen for 24 and Twitter X because of the fact that there's going to be an opportunity there. Somebody's going to test it out, say, oh, okay, we got some good results there. You're going to see more of that happen.
You think the inmates can run the asylum is what you're saying. You're saying basically you're saying that the advertisers are going to come back.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know nobody knows what Elon's going to do in 24, right? That's the wild
That's
part.
a safe prediction. That is a safe prediction.
If he kept his mouth shut, this for sure would happen. If he kept his mouth shut, there's still a very viable, influential audience on X.
Over under on whether Elon can keep his mouth shut? I'll take the under on that. It's like
I can't control Elon, obviously. So I don't know.
There's no one who can, it seems. Yeah.
But look at I'll stand. I'm just standing by my prediction.
Okay.
There we go.
I applaud the guts and I ridicule the stupidity. It's a dual.
We don't know.
I'm saying something about the duality of man with that.
It could be an incredible prediction.
It could be.
I'm banking on it.
Could be.
Elon, just be quiet for like 6 months, and you're going to see an increase in advertising.
Yeah,
you're going to see.
Hey, look,
Linda
I actually
Yaccarino's going to have a much easier time if you just shut your mouth.
Yeah, I actually do like the idea of if some sort of weird consortium could come together from a paid media perspective and basically change the entire tone on X, which is, I know not what you're saying, but it is an intriguing idea of having sort of everybody go, you know what, let's just flood it with good stuff. And obviously then he can't control that, right? But no, that's not going to happen.
I don't think that. I see where you're going, but I don't think it matters. You just have to make it so it's tolerable. And he doesn't say something where the CMO has to pull back. Like what happened with Elon around anti-Semitism is a very serious thing. And you had a lot of brands, a lot of the biggest brands in the world they were forced to. They had to. It was a no-brainer to pull off the platform.
Yeah.
Right? Because of what Elon said and does. If that didn't happen, those brands would still be advertising.
Yes.
And marketers and brands, they have short-term memories. If the audience is still there and X is still working, they will come back, or different ones will fill the gap.
Yeah.
There you go.
I've just come up with.
Not that I want it to happen. I don't want this to happen.
Yeah,
I've come up with. I would love to see. I would love to see the business just be done, but it does serve a purpose.
I have a new ad
Even though
campaign.
you and I aren't on it.
I have a new ad campaign for Twitter or for
Yes.
X. Basically, come sign up for X. We're tolerable.
I think that would work just fine.
We're tolerable. Yeah, I like
Why
that.
not?
It's like Google's do no evil, right? We're tolerable.
We're tolerable. Yeah,
we suck
we're not
less.
that bad. We're not that bad.
We're not that bad. We're not that bad.
We're better than you think.
Yeah.
X, we're better than you think. Here's our media kit.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right. Here's our media kit. Here's our media kit. Here's our media kit.
That would be a great line.
This
it
is
ain't
good
so
fun.
bad.
Yeah, this is good fun.
Okay.
Okay, so here's mine, which is also related. I'm going to pull another one of mine forward since you had that one. I'm actually going the other way. Social media collapse is what I'm calling it, where X the zombification of X, basically. X becomes sort of a zombie platform in 24. And, you know, I'm not predicting its death. I am predicting its zombification with a need of, 2 taps to the head or whatever it's called in the zombie movies. But in addition to that, I think we see a continuation of the pulling away of the social part of social media. So who wins in that situation? TikTok and YouTube become the big winners in what was traditionally known as social media, but are literally just creator distribution networks. They're just creator content distribution networks. Facebook sees its continued decline on the social side, but again, on this content consumption side.
Yeah.
So things like Reels, content consumption continues to be a big player, but the social part of social media moves to private messaging, moves to even more tribal sorts of platforms, Telegram, WhatsApp, and all those kinds of things. And we see a real shift, a fundamental shift in the business marketing strategy of social media, not as a social network, a place to build community or service customers or those kinds of things, but rather a content consumption network where you can get distribution and attract people. It just becomes media.
Yes.
In other words, it just becomes media.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with part of what you're saying is that that's exactly what's happened with channels like YouTube. And it has been for a while, and TikTok, and so it's basically a strengthening of that position. But when a lot of people get up and say, okay, well, social media is not social anymore, that's a bunch of bull, because they just moved. It's, to your point, Telegram, Discord, WhatsApp, Snapchat. Snapchat is having another big resurgence, and that is basically a lot of one-on-one conversations with
Agreed.
They're doing very, very well, and that's where that went. It just has left those other platforms. So you have half of what we know as social media have become just media platforms.
That's right.
And the other half have become, that's where you're social.
It's kind of like the disappearance of the real disappearance of commenting on blogs, right? Yeah. Where that's kind of not a thing anymore, right? I know it is on some. There are very few where there are real conversations, but for most bloggers, for most blog channels, commenting is not really much of a thing anymore. And so that conversation with audiences, the social part of social media, moves more to, I think, events for brands, right? Where they can create their own social platforms, like you said, people getting together with customers and having conversations with them, et cetera, digital and physical, on private platforms. As well as, that includes, by the way, everything from Slack to Discord,
quarterly Zoom calls,
Zoom calls. Exactly.
Circle,
all those kinds of things.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. There's a lot of wonderful communities that are happening.
That's right.
Where you can have those conversations.
And that's what I mean. That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean that social media goes away.
Yeah.
It just fundamentally shifts into much more of a messaging type of platform, like a Slack, a Discord, a WhatsApp, et cetera. And then what we traditionally know as social media, the Facebooks, Instagrams, YouTubes, Twitter, X, LinkedIn to a certain extent, become content consumption networks built for creators.
Yeah, I think you're really going out on a limb with that prediction.
well,
of course you're right. It's
Yeah.
already happened. That's already
I would say
happened.
it's happening, right? And I don't see, and I think what's driving it in many ways is the rise of TikTok certainly is driving a lot of this. But I think just as important on the business side, on the B2B side, is the disappearance of Twitter, is the collapse of Twitter. And
and
LinkedIn, by the way, which is seeing short-term gains in this space because of the collapse of Twitter, because so many B2B conversations now have just full stop moved to LinkedIn. It's actually making LinkedIn slowly, at least what I'm noticing is it's making LinkedIn a little less like pleasant.
Well, first of all, my 23 experience with LinkedIn has been very positive for having actual conversations with people. The icky part of it has happened in the last quarter, where you've got whether it's bots or
AI spam,
these canned spam where you see it, right? We're both seeing it in our comments, and they read like somebody said, give me the 5 responses in ChatGPT, and they throw it in there on LinkedIn.
That's right. Yeah. Our show next week is going to be another special episode, and we're going to talk about, well, we'll keep it a secret for now. But we actually put out the question to our respective networks on LinkedIn and said, hey, what do you want us to talk about? Basically throw up a couple of ideas. And it was fascinating. The first, 10 responses I got on mine, you got real responses right away. You got real responses because your followers love you and you make special predictions about print magazines and stuff. So there's all of that. But the first 10 responses to mine were these weird, cringy AI sort of responses, to the point where one of my connections on LinkedIn went, what I want you to talk about is why the first 10 responses to your post were cringy AI comments. It's like, yes. It's fascinating.
Why is that?
You're getting
targeted.
I don't know. It might be. I honestly mean this. I'm pretty open to connecting. Like, if you're in marketing and you ask to connect and you've got a realistic sort of opening, right? Hey, see your work on CMI or whatever. And
on LinkedIn.
I'm an open networker, right? And I don't know that you are. I think you take a bit more of a strict.
Well, I don't really go into my connections anymore and accept anybody. Like, you have to get my attention and say, hey, Joe, we had this talk the other day. I tried to connect with you on LinkedIn and you ignored it. I'm like, I'm not ignoring it. I just don't go in there anymore.
That's right. Okay. Well, there you go.
Go in and accept it.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Let's.
Fascinating.
Yes. Good stuff. Good predictions so far. We're off to a strong start, I think. And well, now let's pay a couple of our year-end bills here, shall we? Hey, did you know that HubSpot just launched an AI chatbot that helps you build awesome campaigns at scale with just a few prompts? Yeah, it's called Campaign Assistant, and it's a totally free-to-use AI tool that will transform the way you build marketing campaigns at scale. And the best part? Well, the best part is it works seamlessly with all of HubSpot's marketing and sales tools to scale your output across email, social, and more. So AI your way to the most effective campaigns yet at HubSpot.com/campaign-assistant. Can I tell you about a great podcast? It's called Inclusion in Marketing, and it's hosted by Sonia Thompson and brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Inclusion in Marketing digs into important topics like belonging, customer experience, diversity, and how you can practice inclusive marketing authentically. One of the more awesome recent episodes featured a cool exploration into the meaning of belonging, all related to Beyoncé's Renaissance World Tour. Yeah, it was really interesting. So go find it and follow it. You'll find the Inclusion in Marketing podcast wherever you follow your favorite pods.
feel like I'm walking among the flowers.
You are. It's a spa day.
Just
It's a spa day here.
That is it.
That's
That's it. Is that song called Spa Day?
No, it is not.
Or is it Sade?
You're a smooth operator.
Smooth operator. Oh, one of the top 100 songs of all time.
Oh, it's a great song.
It is
a great song. Very romantic song.
Well, I feel we've done a good job with the first two.
Okay.
Should we continue on with our?
We shall.
Other prediction. Would you like me to continue?
I would like you to continue because
okay.
Yes,
because
you seem anxious.
Because I am. I like to go first. I have to be honest with you. So the next one's a two-parter. So hang on for this one,
All
folks.
Right.
So this is an easy one, sort of. As the newsletters will continue their hot stream, led by creator referral networks.
You're really going out on a limb here.
I'm going out on a limb, but I think these referral networks are really amazing, whether you're looking at ConvertKit or Beehive or Substack.
Yeah.
Power of the newsletter network is something that we've started to see for the past couple of years. It's really starting to bear fruit with a lot of the newsletter creators. At the same time, I don't know about you, but I've heard from a lot of podcasters that are like, wah, wah. They're like really disappointed with their podcast downloads, even though they've been doing it for a year or two, haven't seen the types of results they want to. You're going to see more and more of those podcast creators, I think, move into newsletters, which is already, I mean, it's very busy on the newsletter side. I think it's going to get even busier in 24, and you're going to see a lot of our favorite podcasts that were just sort of ticking along that you thought were going to always be there, go to the way of the dodo. So I think that's what's going to happen in 24. What say you, Mr. Rose?
I think I think that's, I mean, so to the first part, kind of like my prediction about social media, I think, right? I think, that's good. You're all good there. That's because it's already
email.
happened.
Yeah, email. We've been talking about email for a long time. Newsletters, it's gone. Yeah,
email continues to become a strong channel for building audience and for and truly, and the network. I totally agree on the network thing. By the way, the sort of that seems to be the way to get like some sort of organic promotion, and not unlike the way organic promotion worked in social media in the very early days.
just to follow up on that, so people don't think we give them something that's very valuable on this show. If I was doing this 10 years ago, I would have focused on trying to get newsletter signups by making sure I was the top 1, 2, 3 ranked in a particular keyword, have them go into that copy, have the call to action, be the newsletter. And that model worked really, really well for Content Marketing Institute for a long time.
Yeah.
Today, I would say, because I don't know the future of search and where that's going to go, I would say you're seeing more focus on these newsletter referral networks.
The social proof.
The way.
Yeah. It gets to that. The storyteller is in some ways more important than the stories these days. I think it really is a trend that we're going to start to see or continue to see, where if I recommend you, it's different than if it comes recommended via a keyword search or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Because people are just now, they're hip to the fact that search engine results right now are broken. They're fundamentally, they're either perceived as gamed by SEO, or they're seen as paid, because sometimes your search page is basically 100% all paid links. And AI is not helping that, because AI isn't developing right now a deep level of trust. And so it will be interesting to see what kind of this will nicely feed into my next. It's a little different, but it does feed into this idea that the level of AI right now is the concern that people have, rightly so, by the way, is that what we're starting to see is what we were once marveling at in terms of AI's creation of content. We're now starting to go, I can recognize that. I can, you can start to really see holes in the boat. You know what I mean?
But don't you think that's temporary?
Maybe.
AI? I think that we're in that buffer period where it's still AI-y, if you will.
Yeah.
It's not, it hasn't quite gone, but it can, and it will. And we haven't even seen the greatest version Yeah,
It'll
because
get better. There's no
it will
doubt it'll get
absolutely.
there's no doubt it'll get better. But the question I think I have is that, I mean, there are tons. I mean, not that we're going to jump. Well, I'll talk a little bit about AI here in a minute, but I think the yeah, it's funny because I'm about to say something that's going to sort of go against my prediction here, but I think with AI in general, the trend that I see is that it's still going to be under the current way that it works with LLMs and pulling patterns together and really being more of a pattern recognition of words rather than truly creation of new and inspiring ideas, is that it's always going to be derivative, right? It's always, and I've been like going deep into using generative AI for everything from like writing fiction to uh, playing around with it, writing coursework and writing, and I'm finding it's just got weaknesses. It's just got real weaknesses when it comes to now. I don't want to go on too long about this, but basically, the biggest challenge I see is kind of what I've been calling the Dunning-Kruger effect of AI content. If you're having it write something that you know something about, it's much easier to see how derivative and unoriginal it is. But if you're writing something about which you know nothing about, then it's really hard because you don't know whether it's good or not. And so recognizing that it's got all the right adjectives and all the right nouns in the right order looks impressive.
Yeah,
But you can't recognize how derivative it actually is of the original thought that it's actually
that's
pulling
probably
from.
right. That's probably
But
correct.
you
I
don't
would
know.
agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's a really interesting tension there when we start talking about, and this is, I think, is sort of a subconscious fear that many writers and marketers have right now, which is if I have it right about my industry, I might be able, if I know a lot about my industry, I can see that it's kind of derivative and I'm not going to really save that much time. But if I don't, if I'm having freelancers do it or whatever, and they don't know my business, well, then they're just going to be writing sort of, quasi decent listicle types of
Yeah.
posts. So anyway, so I think a long way to say, I think you're exactly right with the newsletter thing. The podcast thing, to me is temporary. It was always going to be this way, right? It was always going to be really, really noisy, and then a consolidation, if you will, or a weeding out of those that, basically either don't want to hang, can't hang, or just basically say, hey, it's not as important to me as
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Well, now I've talked with a lot of podcast creators and listeners over the past year about this, and what I seem to be finding is it's very tough to break into somebody's regular play time
Right.
for
Really
their
hard.
podcast. Like if you make it and you're their must listen to, like must see TV every week, you've really done something amazing. It's
That's right.
hard with so much out there. It's very hard to break in. Like for me, for example, I mean, you and I, whether I'm listening to Prof G or The Pivot, or I listen to a couple blockchain podcasts and things like that. It it's very I have certain activity. I go running and I listen to those and I do the same thing every week. It's very tough for me to put a new one into that slot. It's got to be amazing
Yeah,
to break through that. And I
exactly.
think a lot of people are doing the
It's
same.
like the old challenge of apps on your phone, right? If you're not on the first page of somebody's phone, you're not getting used that often.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and I think the other thing is that Jay Kunzo talks about this all the time. What is the story plan you have for your podcast?
that's right.
Like, are you just doing a Q&A like everyone else does a Q&A, or do you have a thing? Like, you cover this in the beginning, you cover this in the middle, you cover this at the end? Like, we were very deliberate. Funny, this episode is not, but we have a show, we have things that we do in our podcast every week. Yeah,
We have different formats, so people
Yes.
know what to expect, and they know, in many ways. And and I think it also is a sense that you can stratify podcast audiences pretty easily into those that listen every week. It's appointment listening, right?
Yeah.
To your point, right? It's appointment listening. Then there are those who they catch every third or fourth show just to see if when they're bored, they go, oh,
Or a
right, there's a couple
topical
that I
area.
haven't listened to. And then there's the one about that will catch every, once a month or once every quarter, they'll catch a show. If they see something that intrigues them. And then there's sort of the casual first listen sort of, wasn't for me kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
And so what you're trying to do is obviously pull that top layer down into being a bottom foundational lever. And so it becomes your core audience. So it's as Akunzo also says, it's a relationship accelerator, not a relationship builder, right?
Yep. That's
Yeah.
a great point. All right.
Okay. I am going to talk about AI. So this 24 is, I think, and I think early, by the way, in 24, late winter, spring, we really start to see generative AI earn its keep in marketing as a process. But I don't think, and this is continuation of what I just said, I don't think we see it as a content creation accelerator. I don't think we see generative AI become a big way that companies are leveraging things like thought leadership or blogging or creating inspirational content or web copy or those kinds of things. I think there are two areas where I see it really starting to grow and become a part. One, which isn't really marketing focused, is in the let's call it the enablement level, the customer enable, like how-tos, manuals, customer service, access to knowledge information around products and services, and how do I do something? Basically, that's where I see a lot of progress getting made. And then the second is in the conversational, what I'm calling conversational advertising, which is using it in a paid media perspective to create conversations, real-time conversations with customers rather than boom at you content. In other words, little bots, little interactive applications that are displayed and distributed via paid media, but then act as conversations with customers to say, hey, I'm paying to get in front of you as like a chat bot. But my real goal here is to sort of have an interactive, like almost like a virtual salesperson, if you will. And we'll start to see the much more on the behind the scenes marketing, things like translation, localization, internal knowledge building, research, persona, those kinds of things where generative AI will put its real muscle to work in terms of marketing.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been watching some of these ads that kind of go right into the chat bot.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting model. Have you played around with some of that stuff?
I have seen it. I've played around a little bit with it, and looked at some of it, but it's good, right? I mean, it's good and getting better, because the thing is, the chat part of Chat GPT or the chat part of the generative AI model is in some ways much superior to all those things that I was talking about earlier in terms of the derivative nature of the content that it's creating, because the use case is different, right? You're not looking for new and inspired when you're having a chat with a company in a sales or a marketing type of experience. What you're looking for is that, I'm looking for direction. I'm looking for how-tos. I'm looking for what should I do next. You're looking to have a conversation, which is chat is much better suited for at the moment.
Interesting. Yeah. And the fact that it has a memory, the building those things have a memory.
Exactly.
And they're built off a particular LLM or data set.
Yeah.
That's an interesting prediction. I guess you're seeing that happen. I haven't thought about it, but I could absolutely see that go crazy in 24.
Yeah.
I have a number fourth prediction, which I don't even know if it's a prediction, but I'll save it for the end, depending on where you want to go. I'm going to go to the fifth one because it's AI related.
Okay. Yeah.
So I want to get your take on this one.
All right.
So I'm going to say more AI-driven news networks continue to launch.
Sadly, yes. Yeah.
We've seen a couple of these, right, that are just AI only, but that's not my specific prediction. I think that's a no-brainer. That's going to happen. Here's my thing, and we won't know next year because this is a way far out prediction. But this is where my head's going. I wanted you to check and see if this makes sense. You're going to see some AI run for president of the United States in 2028. And
I love the outrageousness of that, for sure.
And it's going to come first. Some of us are going to think that that's just ludicrous, and other people are going to say, "Yeah, this is that's my jam," and it's going to catch on. I mean, how
about you just alter that and you say for office, not necessarily for president, but for office.
That's fine. I think it's going to be.
I think because I think that 100. Yeah.
If you want to say for office, that that could be sooner. Yeah. So that might be something. I mean, we already know who's running for president in 24. The people are known.
That's right.
We don't know who the final two will be, but we know the group. Yeah, it's
we
really
know who the final two are going to be. It's pretty set.
Like I said, we don't know who the final two are going to be.
Well, that gets to one of my predictions, but yeah, we gets to one of my.
No, the question is, here's the question: of the AI that runs for president in 28, is it Republican?
Oh, 28.
Democrat?
You're saying? Oh, sorry,
I'm saying 28.
I didn't catch that.
I'm saying 28.
Well, you're making a 4-year prediction then. Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's why if we downplay it to office, I could see somebody run for an AI run for office in, of course, it's not going to be a thing yet because it can't be possible, but I could see somebody building a campaign with an AI leading the way.
I think you're 100% right. And I think we're going to see this coming year, this is not a prediction of mine. I'm just sort of ratcheting up on yours. I think you're going to see something akin to Orson Welles's War of the Worlds with AI. And what I mean by that is somebody's going to either create a band or an actor or a musician or a politician or something that is completely fake, driven by AI that fools everybody, fools everybody in terms of what it actually is and what it actually does. My prediction would specifically there would be music, where the music is AI generated, the personality, the videos, the photos are all AI generated, but it's not a real person or anything.
And I, it's interesting. And I actually think that's a no-brainer. I think that absolutely is going to happen. And I think what we believe as human beings, we think that we care. And there's a whole group of people that don't care. They don't care if it's human or not. If it's good, they're not gonna all of a sudden find out. Like, I think whenever let's say somebody runs for office, in the case that we were talking about, there's a lot of people that are gonna like the fact or not care that it's not a real thing.
Right?
They're just like, yeah, I like the AI. That's it.
As long as he wants to ban immigration, I'm all for it. Yeah,
I think it's Ronnie. I think it's Ronnie. I think it's going to look like Ronald Reagan Jr.
Okay.
I think that's what people want to vote
for.
Or Scarlett Johansson.
We definitely don't want to go too far down this road. We're going to get into trouble.
Robert, we shouldn't even be doing this podcast.
No, we.
So
really
how far do you want to go?
I don't want to go that far, to be honest.
Okay. So that was my fourth. Do you want to end up with one? Or do you want to go two? What do you want to do?
Let's go one more. I have one more that I'll combine my last two.
Okay.
Which is I believe local news and journalism make a big comeback in 24. I think local news finally figures out a business model that works, whether that's benefactor, whether that's sponsorship and content marketing, like we've been talking about for the last few episodes. I think local news and local journalism, especially on the investigative, like truly good journalism, I think it makes a big comeback in 24. And I'm predicting a good economy for 2024, a good productive economy for this year.
Yeah, we never saw that recession.
Yeah, and I don't think we will. The doomsayers are already predicting the first half of 24 is going to be a recession, and I'm like, I just don't see.
Oh no, I don't see any. I'm not seeing the recession talk anymore.
No,
I'm seeing clear sailing, like you're saying. The problem that we've been talking about forever, maybe not on this show, but the fact that you've got $1 trillion in credit card debt in the United States, right. and of course we've got the deficit as well, and we never seem to care about the debt. At some point you think that would catch up with the people and the government, but it just doesn't seem to. At some point we've got to pay that back. We're putting, and it's getting worse because, and you're seeing it with holiday shopping. It's like, pay for this in 72 installments.
Right,
you could pay $2 a month, and they just put.
Well, that's your high interest rates that work for you right there, right?
It's kind of nutso, but I agree with you on the economy. What was the second part of that? Was the
local news and journalism make a big comeback in 24. That's my more specific one. Yeah.
So you think that local news is going to figure out a new business model?
I do. I think it's going to figure out a right-sized business model, and I think you're going to see. I hope, this is a hope, not necessarily a prediction. I hope what we start to see is that sort of leaning in on brand and purpose-driven messaging and marketing begin to find its way into local journalism and local publications. Starting to see some really, really, really small signs of that. Like I know some really small local publications here in LA where they are local newspapers, local, basically digital and physical newspapers, and they're finding, like one is called The Good News, I think, and it's only good news in the local. It's not like burglaries and car crashes and murders and stuff. It's all
like John Krasinski's.
Yeah, it's exactly it. It's like new businesses opening, new restaurants opening, new things happening, and it's all good news. And they're finding, but it's not like a paid for thing. It's not like a Rob
pay to play.
Rob report or something like that. Yeah, it's all the kind of thing where it's local journalists doing good. And I think you're going to start to see some of that come back even for harder hitting news and things for local newspapers and local publications.
Yeah, well, we talked about it. What was a couple episodes ago about the benefactor model and
that's exactly right. That's what I think.
The naming rights. Yeah, the naming rights.
All brand marketing. Yeah.
And I continue to think that in a lot of local, I do agree with you. I don't know if it's going to be next year. I think at some point they're going to figure out the model, but I like the foundation model where if you, let's say you have a local area,
sure.
let's say Cleveland, Ohio, there's a lot of wealthy people on the east and west side of town that care a lot about the news. Now, what if that group of people built a foundation that could then support a news organization? That's not a difficult thing to imagine or to do.
Sure.
It just hasn't
or like
been
a
organized.
B corporation, like a B,
it just hasn't
B
been
type
done.
corporation. Yeah.
Yeah. And just say, okay, we're going to get together. You care about the news. Okay. We're going to take our millions of dollars, put them together. We've got a lot of money and we are going to subsidize this news network. And then we're going to, on top of that, we can build a benefactor model.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you really cared about it and you wanted to do it, it could be done.
Well, that's such a great point. That's such a great point because, for example, I had the wonderful, experience of getting to talk to a local library group out of New York, and I was listening to them talk about marketing libraries and how that whole business is obviously shifting, fundamentally to what local libraries are good for, like community resource, basically, not just a place where you go borrow books, and that whole idea of a foundation marketing as a community resource, pulling in corporate dollars, pulling in sponsorships. It seems to me to be such a no-brainer that I just can't, private and public partnerships that are working really well together to provide trustworthy, good content that, I think it can work. I think it really can work.
Well, I'm curious to see how we're going to end up with these predictions.
Yeah.
I mean, we generally are average at best. So I'm going to predict that I'm going to get one right and three wrong. That's what I'm going to predict.
I'm going to guess that I get most of mine partially right. Yeah.
way to hedge.
Yeah.
Way to hedge.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was fun. That
was totally fun. Well, look, everybody, we've got a wonderful, I hope you have first of all, a great Christmas holiday. This is going to come out on the 22nd. So you'll enjoy hopefully a long weekend plus a nice break. But we will be back again next week with another special episode where we're going to talk about some really fun things that you told us you wanted to talk about, and not the cringy AI stuff, but the stuff that you wanted us to talk about. We got some amazing responses from all of you. So we're going to pick a few of those and really dig deep into, I'll spoil it this way a little bit by teasing and saying, we're going to do like maybe a true confessional type of thing. So have a wonderful Christmas. We'll see you again next week. And remember, it is your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.